Hey everybody, Alex Terrace here, healthhacksreview.com is my website. Thanks for watching. So in this video, I'm going to basically hone in on the infrared sauna category or market and a particular Facebook group that's gained a lot of popularity in a short space of time, just because of course it's social media and things grow very rapidly there, and it's a really popular category. You know, infrared saunas, everybody's really looking at them these days. So the Facebook group, if you're not aware of it, is the Niacin Detox Facebook group. Started just about 2 years ago by an individual, and so with this group, what I'm going to talk about in this video is the fact that I feel like I've been getting a lot of feedback from people who are choosing to chat with me about infrared saunas, and they're finding some of the information in there. Something's helpful, but for the most part, when it comes to figuring out what brand would be good for them or what model, just a lot of, I've heard this several times, biased information. It seems to be very biased towards Jacuzzi Clear Light saunas, that particular brand, even though on the face of it, the group tries to portray itself as very unbiased. And I do feel like there's a lot of potential there still for people to really volunteer more information, research that everybody has done, people who have maybe tested out different aspects of different brands, and really it could be a good space for people to really contribute together and collaborate more information. But I think it has really taken on a different direction that really seems to be skewed more towards really heavily promoting Clear Light and bashing Sunlight and Saunas, that company. So first and foremost, if you're not familiar with me, I am a dealer for 11 different sauna companies, so I take a very unbiased, transparent role in the industry, and I'm usually trying to provide clear information on all these different brands and models. A lot of them will have just a big mix of advantages, disadvantages, pros, cons, but it's also relative to your unique set of needs, which is how I actually help people, because again, everybody is from a different situation, lifestyle scenario, you name it. Anyway, so moving on, I'm going to talk about maybe more so, instead of talking about Clear Light and my review on them, and I did used to have more information up on my YouTube channel, but I have put it on private. I can still share that information with you, of course, if you just contact me directly on my website, healthhacksreview.com. But regarding, I feel like I really want to touch on, in particular, where there's a lot of information I don't feel is accurately represented, is the brand Sunlight and Saunas. And just disclosure, I do sell that brand as well. Some people have tried to paint me as somebody who is an exclusive dealer for them, and all I do is sell Sunlightens all day long. And that's not true at all. I think they're a great company, good quality product that I do sell, and I do sell other brands as well. So in this video, I'm basically going to look over here, which is on my computer screen, because I'm going to basically review information that the founder of this group has put out there on one of their pages, talking about their review of Sunlighten, which again I feel there's some inaccurate points on there. And I just want to respond to those. I'm not actually showing my share screen as I like to do, because I just want to be very respectful of the fact that it is a private group, it is invite only, and probably somewhere in those, terms and conditions, taking that information out of the group is not in the best of integrity, even though granted, if it's something is on Facebook, Facebook owns the content and they could do whatever they want with it, but I'm still not going to put that up there per se, so I'm just going to kind of summarize, I'm going to state the different points and then my response to it. So one of the one point here is Sunlight and Sauna. I have never recommended or endorsed Sunlight, and this is what the founder of the group is saying. If Sunlight and Sauna, they're one of the most unreputable sauna companies in the industry, and then it lists top 3 reasons why. Well, I mean, just thinking about things logically, just for a second, for a company to be one of the, and they might be the top, I have to see the numbers, but for a company to be internationally one that sells the greatest amount of saunas in this industry, and Clear Light also being high up there in those numbers, whether it's Clear Light or it's Sunlighten, to be one of the most unreputable, according to such a claim or opinion that he has, that just doesn't happen, that a company can sell so many and have so much dissatisfaction to the point where they would not have to correct what the issues were in order to keep their reputation up, if that makes sense. Just the sheer amount of unsatisfied customers would create a lot of backlash, which honestly I have not really seen. I have not really seen any points that are really validate that people really are unsatisfied and that this company is that unreputable. And I haven't even seen that really for Clear Light either. And also, I'll get into that a little bit further about just how you review reviews and how you review complaints and all these other things you find online when you're trying to do your research. But I would say this, though, too, is that in general, in this industry and other categories, companies that sell the most of one particular type of product will generally have the greatest amount of complaints on them. And it doesn't matter if they're doing great or they're doing a terrible job at whatever. It's just the sheer amount of, Sunlight or Clear Light sells 10 times, 20 times, 100 times, whatever it is, more saunas than this company or this company or this company. So who do you think over time, even if they're all doing a great job at selling the product, who do you think over time is going to potentially, statistically, have more complaints on them or have more dissatisfied customers? Even if that dissatisfaction percentage is below 1%, it still adds up year after year when you're selling thousands of saunas. So granted, also when two companies have big brand names, more people are going to be more likely to post something online, whether it's true or not true, or they're disgruntled. So just keep that in the back of your mind. Anyway, so one of the top reasons is lack of integrity, and that's based of his opinion, and that's based because they're dishonest and deceptive. He comes up with this conclusion because of one reason, because they are stating that the lifetime warranty, that they're saying they have a lifetime warranty, when in fact it's actually a 7-year limited warranty. And I would just state that that's not really an accurate point. If you go in and take a look at the warranty, which you can see right off the website, or ask me for it or whatever, or ask a sales rep, it specifically says limited lifetime warranty. So I really don't know what the point is here. It's a completely invalid point. It doesn't say lifetime warranty, and then they switch it on you, and it's like limited. All the terms are spelled out there in the warranty. So it's kind of a silly point, I think, because if anybody can go do this and just read, this is not what they're claiming at all. So anyways, let's see here. We'll move down to, thanks for bearing with me a second here. So there's just, I'm trying to scroll through here and summarize best I can point by point. So this one's a common myth, and this is based around why he thinks they're deceptive. That after operating for 10 years, this is supposedly, the story goes, after operating for 10 years under the name Sunlight, which was the name of the company, they changed their name and started a new company called Sunlighten. Okay, well, it wasn't necessarily a new company, and part of this story is that connected with this name change, this voided all of the lifetime warranties on their Sunlight saunas, which is the original name, and those customers. And they betrayed their customers once, and they could very well do it again. Okay. So this is a classic case, and there's a term for this, I forget, in debate, in philosophical debates. I don't remember the term. But basically when you take part of a story and part of a piece of information that's true, and then you add onto it something that is inaccurate or untrue or out of context or whatever. This is one of those cases. And I would say the only times I've seen this story sort of pop up are when there's somebody who's really disgruntled from another company, and they're trying to just scare a person away from this brand. So what is true is the company's been in business a long time. What's also true is the company was named Sunlight, and they did change their name. So all that is true, and you can easily look that up in basic records. However, the part of voiding all lifetime warranties from their customers under Sunlighten, that is not actually how that even works legally. The only time something like that, and we've seen this actually a few times in the industry, several times where companies just go completely bankrupt and they close their doors, like they're done, then yeah, in that sort of situation, they're not really responsible, these companies, for warranties for past customers. You know, the company that you essentially bought your sauna from is gone, like they went bankrupt, something like that. But it doesn't quite work that way if you just do a name change, and especially if there's no bankruptcy involved. So they're still honoring those past customers, of course, because the company has not gone anywhere. And so that's kind of the piece to the story that got added on. And the question is, of course, is why they changed their name. A lot of people are curious about that. And it's very simple. It was really more of a marketing rebranding move that was centered around the fact that they were the first company to introduce something revolutionary, you know, to the industry, which was a full spectrum sauna, and there had never been one before, or one branded as such. Furthermore, because of the new technologies that they were putting in what's called their M-Pulse model, they got invited to be on the Dr. Oz show and another show as well, and they knew that that kind of exposure, because they knew this was going to happen ahead of time, would basically not just, of course, create a lot of buzz around the full spectrum sauna, but bring a huge amount of increased market awareness, brand awareness to their company. So it was kind of a whole rebranding. Here's our full spectrum sauna. You know, we're going to get so much attention. We're going to grow so fast. You know, that was the whole kind of thinking there as a business decision to change the name. And this is something that I've seen, you know, multiple times, and give you lots of examples in different health niches and categories and industries. When a company knows it's going to become very popular, sometimes that happens, or just even more well-known, I should say. They'll rebrand. And as you can see, of course, everybody's talking about full spectrum saunas these days. So, you know, that's that point. So, and by the way, if anybody really has any doubts about that at all, again, you know, there's paperwork on this. I mean, there's documentation. You know, you can track name changes, and you can track, did a company go bankrupt, did it not go bankrupt? And also, it's the type of company, too, that would, Sunlighten, if you request some sort of information showing, you know, to get into this point a little bit further, they've never held back that information from me. They're always willing to provide information if requested. Not all companies are. So next point would be the product quality. So let's see here. They say that Sunlighten puts dense fabric over their heaters. This blocks the infrared. This is the claim. And the owner of this group doesn't believe that the infrared will actually pass through like Sunlighten claims. So basically, the individual has not really done enough research on the fabric that is in front of the emitters. Generally, I have seen fabric in front of carbon emitter saunas. That's kind of actually fairly common, different brands out there. And I have actually seen a little bit of infrared obstruction with those. But that's a very different material for many different reasons. One thing is, of course, up close, if you see some of these other fabric in front of emitters, you'll see that it's normally just solid. It's non-porous. And it's got usually a type of glass actually in that material, which also refracts and blocks a little bit of the infrared output. In the Sunlighten M-Pulse, just to be clear here, and the individual did not make this clear, they don't only put the covers in front of the M-Pulse emitters, they do not put anything in front of the Sunlighten signature model, so that's a point of clarity right there. But if you look at that material up close, if you ever got a chance, or you watch some of my videos where I'm touching it and you know, zooming in on it, that material is like 99% porous if you actually look at it. So most of that infrared is coming through. Now the second point is that the material itself is a bamboo fiber, which is created from burning in fire, the bamboo. And so that material itself, when you burn something like plant organic material, you create a huge amount of carbon. Okay, it's a primary element in there. Now, if you don't know, different mineral elements like that, when they're heated, will produce infrared. Carbon, there's carbon emitters in the industry. That all started from the fact that if you heat carbon, it will actually emit infrared. And there's other materials that do that as well. So the other thing here is not just besides being porous, this material Sunlighten uses in their M-Pulse, the actual material when it heats up will actually emit infrared, and you can see this on a heat thermal camera if you have that attachment on your phone. And I do have a video of this, or I have to put some pictures up. But if you take and I do this, by the way, for testing different brands and assessing even areas of my body that are not warming up and things like that. But if you take a picture of the emitter system and the impulse, you'll actually see that the fabric itself also is very hot and emitting infrared itself, and that's going into your body. So moving on, regarding further about the fabric, this individual says that the fabric is not clean fabric, it's toxic, it's loaded with all kinds of toxins because of the way that they make the chemical, and he cites an article here that you can read about bamboo fabrics. And if you don't know, the textile fabric industry does a ton of pollution. It's horrible. You don't even want to know about it. It's so bad in processing different sorts of textiles. And this is part of this is true, is that bamboo fabric that is processed for wearing, like let's say this t-shirt or this shirt was made from bamboo. Imagine taking, trying to get something that's bamboo and turning it into something that would be comfortable that I would want to wear it. It's true, it takes a lot of toxins and chemicals to actually soften and make it into something that can be woven. However, this article and the point it brings up does not apply to what is being used in the sunlight impulse on those emitters. That fabric, remember, it's bamboo fiber that's being used in there. Okay, so in that process, they're taking bamboo and burning it. Okay, it's a fire process. There is no burning of bamboo with in order to make shirts or pants or things that people wear. Why? Because it would completely damage and completely chemically alter the structure of that bamboo, and it would be no longer even usable. You could no longer make a wearable material out of it, period. It's a completely different process. So that is, again, not research that was done by this individual. And so we're talking about a toxin-free method to make those emitters. Furthermore, if you don't believe any of that, you don't want to believe it, and you don't want to see the evidence of that they'll provide you, you also could note that they have two different certification standards, third parties, that are related to assessing if the inside of that sauna is off-gassing any sorts of toxins or chemicals. So again, give you that peace of mind, there's also third parties that have ensured that nothing in that sauna is off-gassing. And I would just point out that very few companies in the industry have those types of certifications. They can make claims about how clean the inside of their sauna is and no off-gas. They make claims all day long, but very few of them are really going to back that up with third-party, publicly traded companies that you can actually look up. And I bring up that point just because some companies will use third parties that you're like, well, did their brother open that company, or is that even a real company, or can this company be influenced at all? You want a big enough company that handles enough industries, and you know for sure there's going to be a major problem if they were if it was ever found out that they were doing third-party certifications that were being altered in some way or being influenced by money or something like that. So we look for, again, third-party certification or third-party agencies or firms or whatever that are publicly traded as well. I think that's important. So, okay, here's another point that is brought up about EMF, and I'm so happy to clear this one up because I would say that it's actually a point of confusion for a lot of people. Probably just, and you've already experienced this if you've been looking at saunas for a while, is too much information. You're going through all the information. You're just like, oh my gosh, everything's blurring together. Even the company names, I don't know which one's what. You know what I mean? They all have the same sound in their name. So it's understandable that after a certain point, your comprehensive reading skills, your critical reading skills, all those different things are going to decline a little bit. And I think that that's probably just one of those cases. And so the issue that they're talking about here in the Facebook group is that some people were very dissatisfied where they got their sauna and they noted that the EMF levels were a lot higher than they thought and or expected. Okay, so where did all that start? basically, if you, just from not carefully reading, so if you go on the website right now, Sunlighten's website, and you go under the EMF or the heater section, you'll basically see that they're talking specifically about their solo carbon emitters. Those are emitters that they have custom built for just their brand, that are in their signature saunas models. Okay, and there's a little trademark after the solo carbon. You see a little TM there. That means that that's their thing that they're making, and it is a little bit unique in how they're constructing that, by the way, than other emitters that you'll have out there. But anyways, in there, that's what they're saying also, hey, here's our third-party validation certification also, that it's very low EMF. Here are the EMF levels. And most of the sections, by the way, are below 1 milligauss. A couple sections are like 1.2 or whatever it is. It's super low. They double back the emitters just like Clearlight does and a couple other companies. That's the best way to neutralize EMF with those types of flat panels. Anyways, they clearly state that the third party and their low EMF is with the solo carbons and the signature. What they never state is in the discussion of Sunlight and Impulse in any of the marketing materials, etc., that just basically the EMF levels. They do not make any statements if you go and you can read that for yourself. So I think that some people have been confused because they look at, Sunlight and low EMF, and it's like, yes, that is true. It's for their Sunlight and signature models using these particular types of emitters. It's using a different emitter system in the Impulse. 3 different emitters in that sauna model. Okay, so it's a very unique system, and they're not making any statements about their EMF. Okay. So now in that sauna, if you test it yourself, you saw my tests or whatever, other people's tests, you'll see that it goes anywhere from 1 to 12, 13, 14, 15, more or less somewhere within that range, depending on where you are. So that's obviously different, very different than a Sunlight and Signature. So some people get the Impulse and they're expecting Sunlight and Signature levels, and that's where that whole confusion starts. And really that goes back to just not carefully reading. Understandably, again, it's very frustrating and tiring trying to keep all the information straight between all the different brands and models when you're comparing them. So nothing really deceptive there. I wouldn't bring up this point because it really is more the responsibility of the customer in this case to assess what they're buying and look at all the specifications. And if they think something is not clear on the specifications, asking, especially if EMF is important to you or important to the customer, you would think that would be something that they would specifically ask about and or specifically read, and pay attention to, pay closer attention. So that goes for anything you're interested in, any particular aspect of a sauna. Pay close attention to it, ask more questions of whatever brand or model, again. So let's see here, moving on. One of the points that the founder provides is he gets an icky feeling about the company, which, is probably the least objective point that's brought up here, because it's not really based on objective data and analysis. But we'll check it out a little bit here. So they have a very corporate background and mindset. Sunlighten, they only care about profits, and they use deception, dishonesty, and high-pressure sales tactics. So listen, with the busier, bigger brands in the industry, they all have to have a very corporate mindset. And a lot of the senior management has had corporate backgrounds, of course, because when you have a multi-million-dollar operation, distributors everywhere internationally, and this goes for Clearlight as well, and a couple other brands that are bigger names, you have to have that mindset. You have to be very focused on your business, because it is a very competitive business. You do have a lot of overhead. I mean, there's a lot going on there, a lot of employees, things like that. So things have to be run well. In fact, Sunlighten ran their company so well. Gosh, it wasn't Forbes. I should probably know this. I could probably look it up, but it was one of those big magazines. They do their yearly analysis, just like best places to work for. I'm sure you've heard of that sort of thing. And it was some years ago that Sunlighten got awarded out of tons of companies, Fortune 500, you name it, tons of companies, as one of the best places to work for in terms of for the employee satisfaction and all that kind of stuff. So they actually won even some awards, so they can't be that bad. But they do have to be run absolutely like a corporation because of what a big business they are. But to say that's a bad thing, I don't think it's a bad thing at all. The better a company is run when they have so much product to fulfill and so many individuals and responsibilities, you want that because a lot of that is also tied to having better quality control. And I would say that this company does some extremely unique things, that's all I can tell you, that other companies do not do in the area of quality control. If you want to chat about what those unique things are, I deal with a lot of companies beyond infrared saunas, all kinds of categories, and again, they do some very unique things to track all the information from the production run all the way to the consumer's house that would allow them to track down information about any aspect of that sauna, which is highly unusual. So if anything goes wrong or anything strange or whatever they need to do, they can actually get a record of that information, and that's really great stuff. But either way, I've been to the facility, I've been to other companies' facilities, because you can gain a lot of other information that way that's not so objective, and I like to meet people face to face and get a feel for the vibe and things like that, and it felt great over there, honestly. Seemed like a great place to work, really good vibe, people were happy, all that kind of stuff. And I didn't really pick up on this sort of icky feeling that this individual was talking about. So high pressure sales tactics, I will say that not everybody likes to be proactively called all the time or have emails sent to them. And this company, I think, and a couple other popular companies that sell a lot of saunas, when you're closely competing with other top brands, all the companies are kind of doing that. And I wouldn't say high pressure, but I would just say if you don't like to be called often or emailed or contacted often, and you consider that high pressure, then sure. I mean, there's several companies like that. But the idea is we get so confused, consumers out there, that really, in my experience, what happens is people get burned out, they get tired, and then they're just like, okay, this person, they contacted me last, they seem to make the most sense, or they just made the last point that seemed to make sense, I'm just going to buy this sauna. And it's a lot of times people will make that decision just out of frustration or being tired, or this person seems to make more sense, but nobody's really sure. They just think that person seems to make more sense, and I just kind of need to make a decision. I'm just going to go with this person. Sunlight and then these other companies know that. So they know that really they will sell more saunas if they are more proactive and they have that last word in, or they have that last rebuttal, or they have whatever. That's just how it is. That's just how the industry is. I don't think they're any worse than anybody else. If anything, people are making decisions in the end without having all the information, without clearly discerning. They're frustrated, they're tired. It's not a good time to make a big decision. That's why a lot of people call me, for example. So they know that's the case. So, I mean, at least when they are proactively calling them, they're selling them a good quality product, at least in my opinion. So, and by the way, this goes for any company. If you're tired of all the calls or whatever, it's clearly up to you. Most of these companies will stop calling or contacting if you say, hey, I need more time. Too many people are calling me. Please put me on your do not call list. Okay? I mean, if it's always up to you. It's pretty rare that a company is going to continue to call you or contact you after that point if you've requested not to be contacted any further. I've always seen several companies honor that, including Sunlight. So, moving on. Okay. One last piece is, already talked about the warranty, actually. It is limited. They say it's limited. And by the way, their warranty term is extremely common. That is, if you just look at many different brands of saunas, their actual terms and conditions are pretty darn similar, standard with a lot of different brands. And talking about warranties, watch my warranty video, by the way, because there's a perspective that you may not have really taken on that, and I'll just share it briefly here. Think about all the products that you've purchased, regardless of the price, really expensive, really cheap. How many of those purchases were covered by a lifetime warranty? pretty hard to think about. And I also know about all kinds of different healing devices and equipment, and I can just tell you it's not common to see a lifetime warranty. And even if you do see a lifetime warranty, remember that if a company is doing well, in other words, if they have a popular brand, they're selling a lot of their product, they have a lot of customers, it's even less likely to see a lifetime warranty. Why? Because even if an item is relatively inexpensive for a company to maintain and or fix or whatever it is, repair, just having a sheer amount of a huge volume of customers, even if they're minor issues, costs add up a lot when you consider thousands of a product sold going back years, right? And the fact that the people will own those products out into the future, a long time, many years. Again, even if you have great quality control standards, maybe even the best, even if you have issues below 1% with your saunas, or 1%, whatever, some low amount, stretching out years with thousands of customers, those financial costs can end up being quite a lot. And then at that point, you also have to, the CFO is financially looking at all the numbers and saying, hey, do we have to let some employees go and have less people working with us in order to honor that warranty? Or, hey, do we need to scale back on this particular part and component? I think we can get that one a little bit cheaper. Let's look into lowering the costs on our production of our saunas. Do we need to go to a cheaper factory? This is a business at the end of the day, and they're making a product, okay? And so these are all the things that a lot of consumers don't really think about, and the fact that for a company to sell a huge volume of saunas and to have a lifetime warranty on it, I can just tell you right now that any company that does that, just from knowing all the different factories in the industry, they're getting their saunas for $100 to $200 manufactured per model, period. There, I disclosed it. Now you know. Now you probably don't feel so good about the sale that you're getting and the great deal. But, and by the way, I'm pointing out that is common with third-party factories, companies that use third-party factories. They're getting their saunas for that price. And Sunlighten, by the way, does not use a third-party factory. Just for reference sake, they own their own factory. But regardless, to really have a chance of selling so many saunas, you see my point, out for so many years at such a volume and honor lifetime warranties on that, even if it's some minor issue that one person had, in over 20 years with their sauna, all that adds up. And so you have to really consider having less employees, lowering your costs, lowering the cost of the sauna, trying to get it for $100 or $100 to $200 depending on the model, all that kind of things. The money has to come from somewhere, okay? Now imagine also if you have a massive or just a very large marketing budget and you're spending a lot of money on advertising. Where's that money coming from? These are all the things you don't think about. How come, these two brands are more well-known than this brand over here? And just because you have heard of these brands more doesn't mean they're better than this one per se, but you see my point. If this company is spending a fraction of the amount of money on marketing, perhaps they have more money to invest into the company. It just depends on a lot of different variables. So moving on, they bring up the point, by the way, about warranties. You're never going to be in a situation, it's very unlikely, where you're shipping back a sauna. This is one of the points that they bring in here. If you don't have this big, amazing warranty that covers it, then you could get stuck with all these fees returning the sauna. Nobody returns a sauna. Usually, most saunas are simple to repair. Bring over an electrician, they send you a part. It's easy for most brands, most models. Okay, this is not that complex, and it's not that costly. Even if you're outside of warranty, by the way, it's not that costly to get whatever that new little part is and just have somebody come over and fix it, and your sauna is good for many more years. That's usually the situation if it happens to you, which again is not that common even across multiple brands. Okay, so that's another reason why having an amazing warranty is not, or a long-term warranty I should say, is not like super crucial. But it's very rare somebody's going to get stuck with returning the sauna, which they bring up here. And I would point out, just for the record, because they talk about how it's going to could be $1,000, returning and restocking fees and all these different things. I've been in the rare position. I mean, it's been a rare position for me to be in a situation across now many different sauna companies where somebody's returning the sauna because of some major issue. If anything, the reason I was in that situation, I know for sure one time, maybe 2 times with Sunlighten, was simply because the person wanted to go to a larger size model, okay? And the fact is that returning that sauna was not very costly at all. I believe out of pocket was like $350, $400 or something like that. And there was even some discounts given anyways on the new model. So like it worked out where the customer wasn't even paying a difference. The bottom line is this, is better companies, usually want to provide good customer service. They put their best, efforts into it. And in this area, if something really was going on that was that wrong, they had to take it back, I'm sure that several companies that I could rattle off here would be willing to work with that customer, because it's such a rare scenario. Do you know what I mean? For somebody to feel like they need to return it, unless they're going to upgrade to a new sauna. Again, most things can be easily repaired. Moving on, because this video is getting so long. Just a bunch of other points he's rehashing again. Their saunas are loaded with toxins. Remember, if somebody makes a claim, and that's a claim, right? You'd want to know if they backed up that claim. I mean, I would like to know if a sauna was loaded with toxins. That's why people contact me. And I could say that, hey, guess what? Did you know that they use plywood in the top of their saunas? They being 90% of sauna companies, maybe 85%, whatever it is, it's common. So common that you'll even find some plywood on the entire exterior top roof of the Clearlight sauna, Jacuzzi Clearlight. Surprise, surprise. And we all know that plywood, they use synthetic adhesives and they use formaldehyde to make it. There's no clean plywood out there. That would be cool, doesn't exist. So the claim here is made that their saunas are loaded with toxins, Sunlighten's. Okay, well, they have 2 third-party certifications saying that they don't. So there's that. They also use solid, same wood type all the way through the sauna. They use, if you get a basswood sauna, and only a few companies do this, it's not common. If you get that particular sauna and they say it's basswood, it's that same wood type all the way through. Plywood and basswood, plywood and cedar are not the same wood type, obviously. So that's just another aspect of, that we look for, is sometimes when you see saunas that are not the same wood type all the way through, usually a slightly greater chance that there's going to be something else in there related to toxins or the way that something has been treated, a different type of wood or plywood. It just depends. All right, moving on. This point actually I find pretty funny. So under the Clearlight benefits, or why the individual likes Clearlight so much more, we talk about, they say that what's so great about it is they have independent third-party testing for no toxins in their saunas. Sunlighten has the same thing. Independent third-party testing showing low EMFs in all of their saunas. Sunlighten has the same thing. So these are not unique points to Clearlight. High output, properly sized carbon ceramic heaters. High output is not really a scientific term. That's not really high output of what. So that statement doesn't even mean anything, first off. And if we're going to talk about these emitter systems, comparing different brands, we need to get to technical specifications and use those technical terms. So if you say this one's more high output, it's like higher output of what? Higher output of toxic chemicals, higher output of like EMF, higher output of purple colored lights, right? I mean, if this is going to be a real review here, and everybody's going to start reading this, it doesn't make any sense. So, and I will point out that there's a lot of claims Clearlight likes to make about their emitters. You can see those claims easily on their website, or talk to their sales reps or whatever. Never have I seen those claims that have to do with the performance or superiority, supposedly, of those emitters. I've never seen any of those claims backed up, any objective data. You can request it, and if you see it, let me know. Send it to me. Thank you. Moving on, thousands of satisfied customers. Yeah, Sunlighten has thousands of satisfied customers as well. Where was the point that I found so funny? Anyways, there was a point here that was that said something like, you don't want to get the Sunlighten sauna because they come from China, and it's something about toxic saunas from China or whatever it was, and that's a bad thing. Well, and honestly, if you read that point or you saw that point, you should just throw everything else out that is even stated here, because that's just a sign of not even doing basic research. Sunlighten does not make their saunas in China. Okay? And because this individual thinks that that's such a terrible thing, it should be noted that Jacuzzi Clearlight Saunas uses a third-party factory that's pretty well known in the industry, that makes a lot of other brands, that's located in China. So it's kind of an amusing statement, is it not? Anyways, that's it for the conclusion of just my review. I know there's a lot of points here, so that's why this video went on forever. But thanks for hanging in there. I'm sure if you have more questions about either of these brands, you want to compare them in a little more detail, I can absolutely do that for you. At the end of the day, I think Clearlight is a pretty good brand, pretty good sauna comparatively to a lot of other saunas that are out there. It's all on a scale, right, of criteria, pros, cons, advantages, and you just kind of you can kind of rank them and get a feel for where something is compared to other products. And I'm not saying it's a horrible sauna, and I don't want you to think that. I think that it's a good brand, and they build pretty good saunas, and there's definitely some positive aspects to them compared to other brands out there. At the end of the day, I'll consult with you in an unbiased manner. Maybe a Sunlighten would be better for you. Maybe something else would be better for you. But I'm going to try to be as straightforward as possible. I do think that if you pin me down and you say, hey, I need to know about these two brands, Clearlight and Sunlighten, which do you think is better, right? And let's say better has to do with just all the different analysis and research criteria one could do, okay? Many categories of how you would look at two different product qualities and companies. I would say that there's more backed up claims with a Sunlighten over a Clearlight, if that makes sense. So there could be greater peace of mind, I think, with the Sunlighten brand in terms of the statements they're making. I would also say to you that if you have the opportunity, try a Sunlighten and then try also Clearlight. And I think that up close in person, you will also notice some things about these different brands that you can't tell from the pictures in terms of construction quality. And I do go over that in my YouTube channel between both brands, some of those points if you don't get a chance to do it for yourself. So anyways, thanks for watching. I really do appreciate you hanging in there with all this time. You can reach me, send me quick questions by phone, by live chat, by email, my website, healthhacksreview.com. You're also welcome to leave some comments below in the YouTube video in the description. If you found this video helpful, please just give me a thumbs up. And if you want new updates on videos, things like that, you can just subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.